we don't know where this conversation is going to go. Me and Alex have no idea where it's going to go. But this is something that I've had on my chest for a long time. And me being from California, from the hood to be exact, and Alex from, what would you say you're from?
Minnesota through and through.
Minnesota through and through. And being from California, the hood to be exact, I come from a place where we are very direct in everything. The way we deliver a message, the way that we handle our business, everything. And when you come to the Midwest, specifically Minnesota, from what I'm being told, there's this very like passive aggressive approach with everything. And I didn't really recognize it until somebody brought it to my attention when I was in college. Well, not really in college, it was after college because I was always around my teammates in college. And this has been a huge frustration in every relationship that I've built out here because I felt as if I was looked at as like a bad guy rather than an honest guy. But I've learned over time that you can be honest. There's 10 ways to say one thing. You know what I mean? So I think where I want to go in this conversation is talk about the difference between direct and indirect and how they're both beneficial or they're unbeneficial. So that makes sense so far?
Yeah, I think that's a good place to start.
So let's start there. So do you have an example at all?
Just life. I mean, like, I think since I've known you, it's not like you're just like, you suck or something like that. But I think you are I'm not going to say when you and I necessarily communicate, but when I'm around you, I can tell that maybe you'll just be more upfront with how you feel.
Yeah.
Whereas, and maybe I'm not the same as Minnesota, so maybe I'm not a good representation of Minnesota, but I'm not going to say how I feel. Like, a dumb example is like in your car, you didn't have like the air conditioning.
Yeah. Let's tell that story.
Right.
Okay.
So basically it's like 102 degrees outside and Cedric is from California, the desert. So he's like totally fine with really warm weather. The windows are up in this car. I'm dying. I'm dying from this heat. And I'm not going to say anything. Like, this is how, for me, I don't know if this is just how I was raised. I'm not going to say anything. This is about you. This is your car. You decide. So I'm just going to sweat it out, whatever. And it wasn't until you're like, so are you hot? And I was like, yeah, it's a sauna in here. It's an absolute sauna.
Yeah, we started laughing.
Yeah.
And then the thing about me and the way that since being where I'm from and then moving out here, I had to, I was like, oh, damn. And to me in my head, I was like, damn, it feels good in this car. And then I was like, wait, it's hot outside. And Alex is probably burning up. And I was like, bro, are you high? He's like, it's a sauna, but I'm not going to say anything. And then we started laughing. And like, that's a very light example of like what we're talking about. Now I'm going to give a harsh one.
Okay.
You know.
Does this involve me?
No.
Oh, okay.
I know. The soccer field thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. So I got a story for y'all, right? So we are at my daughter's soccer practice. We're at our soccer practice and it's at the end of practice. So it's at the end of practice, and what they do is at the end of the practice, they have like coaches versus the kids. It's like a fun little like 5-minute thing. And I'm watching the kids, I'm holding my baby. And I'm looking out there and I noticed that like, there's a kid being choked, spun, and thrown to the ground. I look out there, I notice that it's my kid. And what I read, and the way I even like noticed that it was happening is I heard these parents next to me screaming like, "Hey," the kid's name, "Hey, stop, let her go." And I look out there, I'm like, hold up, that's my daughter. So I'm sitting there, I look up at the parents. The parents turn around and don't say anything. So I get up and I walk over there and I go to my daughter. I said, "Baby, are you okay?" And she starts crying. So now I'm effing livid. I grab my daughter, and mind you, I have my baby in my hand. I'm so frustrated that I don't even notice that Quincy's in my hand. I walk back and I'm pointing at the parents. I said, hey, grab your kid. I didn't swear one time. Grab your kid. grab your kid. Da-da-da. The dad like like stumbles up and runs out there, grabs his kid, and when he grabs his kid, he's like, "You don't do that." Da-da-da-da-da. So they come over. I'm still hot. So I'm like, all right. I got Maddie next to me. I'm like, yo, like, calm him down, and he's gonna come over here and apologize to my daughter. Calm him down. So I'm standing there. I'm just standing there. And at this point, I'm not even like mad. Like I'm cool. I'm just like taking care of the situation. So I'm like, calm him down and make him come over and apologize to my daughter. They come over. Maddie's cool. The kid's crying, and they make him say sorry. So he says sorry, and at this point I'm like cool. I'm like yo, like I'm not even like mad at them. They're kids, you know what I'm saying? Like, but he needs to know that's not cool, and my daughter needs to know that I have her back, and I'm gonna make sure that no boy is gonna grab her and do that to her, right? So this whole thing's happening, and I'm like, this is so normal to me that I'm like, there's nothing really happening here. Like we're just ironing out this situation. I'm taking care of like, no, this is very black and white. He touched her, da da da. So this whole thing happens, and I find out later. So after the situation happened, I'm dissecting. I'm like, all right, like, did I do anything wrong? You know what I'm saying? Like, how do I handle the situation? So I get in the car, and Charlotte's frustrated with me with how I handled the situation. So now I'm mad at her because I feel like she doesn't have my back. Like, what did I do? Like, he grabbed our kid, and Charlotte said something like, well, we can't make kids apologize. It's like, it's not about that. It's the principle of what happened. Of course, his apology doesn't mean anything. It's about Maddie, and it's about the 1 + 1 = 2. He touched her. He should apologize. I'm going to say something. Whereas, like, what really was supposed to happen, like when I looked up at the dad, they weren't going to say nothing. It was going to just be okay. It's like, hell no, that's not okay. Because where I'm from, parents will probably be fighting. You know what I'm saying? So that's one example. So then, as that story goes along, I started to ask people like, hey, I asked Charlotte's mom, like, hey, how did you think I handled that? Well, I was fine with everything except you telling the parents what to do, to apologize to making their kid apologize. And it's like, so what was I supposed to do? What was I supposed to do? You tell me. Well, I think that we could have. I'm like, look, bro, I get like the whole kumbaya and like the sunshine and rainbow stories. That does not happen. It's very simple. If that was if they were adults and like that, a man assaulted a woman on the street, he will probably go to jail, right? So I'm setting the precedent now that that's not all right, and I don't give a damn who the parents are of this kid. They need to make sure that he knows that too. I'm gonna tell you that straight to your face. I called my brother-in-law. I told him, because I'm asking all my family. I'm like, bro, how did I handle this? He's like, oh man, like I'm so happy that I wasn't there. I'm like, bro, why? Like, why does that bother y'all so much? He's like, bro, like we're just not like that out here. Like that makes me cringe. It makes me sweat. Like for somebody to be that direct. But he said, but you should do that. What you did was right. So then I went through this whole phase of like feeling like I didn't belong. You know what I'm saying? Like really questioning like by default, like my blackness in some sense, because of where I'm from, that's how we are. We're very direct and like we are, it's like all blacks and Hispanics. You know what I'm saying? So what's the long-term goal here? Like,
Yeah.
if I'm indirect, I don't do something, I'm setting an example. This made me mad even thinking about it, because if I'm indirect, I'm not there for my baby.
Right.
I have to be direct. The situation causes for me to be direct. If I'm like, Maddie, it's okay, like you guys are 5. No, fuck that. At the end of the day, nobody puts their hands on you. Where I'm from, like when we were growing up, bro, it was like we were taught at an early age, fight. That was the term, like fight. Like a little kid, you boxing with your little cousin. You know what I'm saying? I don't have to teach my daughter that. We don't live where I grew up, but I will let that boy know, and let their parents know. And my daughter's gonna see, hey baby, nobody's supposed to put their hands on you. I'm gonna make sure that they apologize to you, and you should be expecting an apology for somebody. Now it's like, all right, this happens again. Am I gonna teach her to defend herself or something? It's like, I don't want to do that. That's like violent. What I did wasn't violent. And it almost feels like out here, if I speak up and I'm direct, it's almost playing in the field of like violence in some sense.
Yeah, like verbally, basically.
Sure.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, like, I'm not speaking for everyone. I just think from my perspective, it's a lot of it is about like keeping the peace, basically. That is like the hope at all times.
But what do you do when the peace is broken?
Try and keep the peace. Like, that's what I'm saying. And I'm not saying this is right. I'm
No,
just
yeah,
saying,
yeah.
like, like in that situation, I think the normal Midwest Minnesotan thing to do is take the kid away and deal with your kid and hope the other person deals with theirs. That is like and maybe the parents bring over their kid on their own accord or whatever and say, like, sorry. But if not, it's just about dealing with your kid rather than confronting the situation. I'm not saying that's right, but I think that is exactly what it is, because, again, it's about no confrontation and trying to keep the peace at all times. So that's where the cringe factor goes in, because they're not used to it. So we're not used to it.
Okay, but what do we feel like no confrontation does for anybody?
I hear you.
No, I'm genuinely asking. Like,
and I think it's a short-term solution that doesn't have long-term gains.
Yes.
Right.
Confrontation is healthy, bro. Like, there's levels to, like, you don't want to be out there fighting, but like, you need to have confrontation. Right. When me and Charlotte got together, one of the hardest things that we had to deal with is, like, we couldn't have confrontation for two reasons. One, because I was too direct and I was kind of like an asshole at times because I was just young and immature, and she didn't like confrontation. You know what I'm saying? Her family doesn't like confrontation. Like, everything is like, oh, if we don't do something, I'm gonna go get you like a Caribou coffee and like give that to you. Like, we don't have to talk about it. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's kind of how it is. Well, that's not fully true. Like, Charlotte's family is very emotionally mature when it comes to having conversations, more so than how I grew up. So that's not fair to say. So from the confrontation front, I have much more experience with it, but I would say it's much more on like the aggressive side. But since I've matured, I can have confrontation, still get the job done, and still come to like, no, there's a solution that needs to happen here because this is crossing the line. Like, peace is broken with the thing. You know what I'm saying? So confrontation is healthy. I don't understand.
I'll give you an honest example from like my past, I guess you could say. Yeah. When right out of college, I lived with 4 other guys, and when you live with that many people, probably guys especially, you're just going to have things that annoy you. Mm-hmm. Cleaning or just different habits. That's just normal. Totally makes sense. For me, I just didn't have the ability to go, hey, this is really annoying me. Like, fix it, basically. So instead, I would find a way to just savagely roast people in the situation.
Okay.
And so for me, it was almost hiding my aggression through laughter. I can make you laugh while also kind of insulting you
and getting my point across. Yeah.
Now, my point in saying that is not that, oh, that's a great option, do that instead. It's more of, I still couldn't
just straight up say it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Because for me, and I don't even know if that at that point is like about keeping the peace. It's just like, I don't feel there is just something in me that won't allow that to happen because I don't know what the repercussions might be, which I think is kind of depressing, to be quite honest.
Why?
In the sense of, if you just deal with it, it's now dealt with. And people might be hurt.
That's what I'm saying.
No, I know. But, and for me, it's just prolonged probably. But I feel like that short-term moment of just making them laugh and moving on is like, all right, hopefully they learn the lesson. We can all move on together.
Yeah. See, bro, that's what I'm saying. Like, I just wasn't. We just come from 2 different places. You know what I mean? And like, in that specific example with the soccer field is like, there's no way in hell I'm not going to be straightforward with you as the person's parent, as the kid's parent, me as the father of my daughter, that I'm going to take this head on because I believe in like matching the energy. Like, okay, this is what happened. Yo, come get him, calm him down. Make him come over here and I'm not cussing nobody out. I'm not snapping. I'm not calling nobody out their name. I'm not calling havoc. But let me tell you an example, dog. When I was a kid, in Pop Warner football, a coach grabbed me. My dad came out of left field and went off, talking about like where he's from and he'll do X, Y, and Z, threats being made. You know what I'm saying? So I've seen stuff like this. I didn't handle it nothing like my pops, but the way that my dad did it was normal. That's what they gonna take care of their business and whatever. I'm way too mature I'm mature enough to know that I cannot do that. Like, that's not what they're freaking kids. You know what I mean? Like, whatever. You know what I'm saying? It's the principle of, hey, daughter, this isn't right. I'm going to make sure that it isn't right. Now, when she's 15 and 16 years old and she's out there playing soccer and they get into a freaking team fight, I'm not going to do nothing.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna do nothing. They're 16. They're teenage girls competing. This is a boy. They're 5. You see what I'm saying? This is a big moment in like my daughter's psyche. I understand all that stuff like this because I had like stuff like that happen in my childhood where people didn't show up for me. So I'm damn sure gonna show up for her. It's not about the boy. It's about her. You see what I'm saying?
Sure.
You know what I mean?
The one thing about that is I think that's a good example, but at the same time I think that's like an intense example. Like I'm thinking
Okay.
the one thing I would say is from my perspective, I think what Minnesotans, Midwestern people are good at is maybe letting things go when they can be let go
Yeah.
versus it just seems that the more blunt, more direct East Coast, West Coast is 0 to 100, and we're at 100 for everything, basically. Where like the confrontation, the football thing you're talking about, now grabbing like physically, that's a whole different ballgame. So I'm not trying to like say anything about that, but I mean, okay, that actually I'm not even gonna approach that one. I think my point in saying that is just more of like, if I'm not saying everyone would do this, but if like a shopping cart touched your car, there might be someone on the in New York that just ramps it up way faster
Yeah.
than someone in Minnesota, where I think there is benefits to being more passive, being like, it's fine. I
Yeah.
don't want to create a whole thing around this.
That's
a whole
actually a good
event.
point. That's a really good point because I think growing up, like the big thing in like middle school, high school is like if somebody stepped on your shoes, you was ready to fight.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Whereas like I've learned coming out here is like, okay, like I think I don't know if I told you this story, but basically I got into like some car thing, not the crazy one, not that one. But I got into like this car thing where the person was like the one was like just freaking going nuts. I'm just like I just looked at her and said, hey, calm down. Like, calm down. Like, it's not that serious. Like, just relax. I can tell this woman's probably having a bad day or something, but she's snapping. So back in where I'm from, is like, I'll probably do, like, not me, but like, somebody would have got the car and started yelling and screaming and like, get into a fight. So I do believe that, East Coast culture has taught me how to, like, recognize that everything doesn't really need to be addressed at 100. If somebody else is at 100, you can come to them at 30 and like, yo, like, just chill.
Right.
Like, it's not that serious.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or it's like, well, my past life was like everything at 100. Like, bro, you gonna respect me. It's like, nah, that's not the case. So I think what we're kind of unfolding is like this line between like respect and disrespect versus like direct and indirect, and how to navigate those things based on like this actual situation.
100% agree. And on that, I don't know if it's the same thing, but I wonder if that creates more individualism versus like community. And I'm not saying that as a whole. I think there are good communities in Minneapolis or good community, but and again, I don't know if this is related, but you always hear about New Yorkers, they're yelling at each other and stuff. But then when like a massive event happens, a hurricane, 9/11 or something like that, it's like everyone comes together. Everyone protects their own. I don't know if there's a connection, but to some extent, I just wonder if that mentality is part of it, of being direct, because you're being honest, you're building trust. If I do this, I'm gonna get yelled at, so I don't want to do this. Whereas in the Midwest, it's more of you don't know how people feel. Like something I keep hearing lately, which sucks because I'm number one fan of Minneapolis, but a lot of people moving here will say it's just like hard to meet people. Like Minnesotans are nice, but they're not necessarily welcoming. That is kind of becoming a thing.
That's actually super true, bro.
Right. And I think to some extent that's probably fair. Like at the apartment I live in, they put like a newsletter that 2 people moved from California and are having like a board game night. And my initial thought, this is so depressing, but it was like, I don't know if you're going to get anyone to show up. Because everyone just is, I already have my friends. I'm already good to go. I won't bother you, but you don't bother me either.
Super true. Yeah, that is super true. And it's so funny. I guess I didn't really recognize that because I'm somebody who is more of like the lone wolf that I am. So like I never am trying to make new friends and stuff. But I think that is true. Like Minnesotans are very nice, but they're not very welcoming. And if they are very welcoming, it's only for a period of time within like initial like meeting. But after that, it's like nothing really after that.
Right.
Is what my experience has been once I was done playing ball and like getting regular friends and stuff like that. So it is true. I remember the first time I went to New York, the first thing that I saw when I got out the airplane and like I was getting off a tram or something, because I saw this girl, there was this woman holding pushing the baby in the stroller. Did I tell you this before?
I feel like I know what you're gonna say, but I don't know if you've told me
Oh,
before.
there's a woman pushing a baby in the stroller, and she had to go down some steps. A girl has on her AirPods, sees the woman, goes up. They don't say nothing to each other. She goes up, grabs the bottom of the thing, walks the lady down, puts it down, and just keeps walking. And I'm like, holy day, what the hell just happened? And I think that goes back to what you're saying about like that connectivity. Like, look, we got each other's back. I remember Casey Neistat even talked about this before, like why he loved the city so much, because we're tough and whatever, but we have each other's back. And that stroller situation was like a perfect example of that.
But that's like a direct action too.
Yeah, exactly.
Versus indirect would be like, I don't want to bother them. I think they'll be fine.
Yes, and you know that they need help. You see what I'm saying? Like, oh my freaking gosh, don't even get me started with this. How many minutes, and I love Minnesota, I live here, dude. But how many, like my freaking wife, bro, it's like, well, I don't really know, because like you do know. You know, dog. You know, just freaking do it. Yeah. Just do it. Like, you want to help. You want to throw the party. You want to whatever. You want to go. Just do it. Like, you don't need me to say do it or not. Because even when, and I used to tell her this all the time, like, it really doesn't matter what I say. If I say yes or no, like, you kind of know what you want to do. You're just like in limbo because all these other factors that you're taking into account, which is fine. You know what I'm saying? It's your life. Yeah. But like, just do it. You know what I mean?
So one other point is, I think from my vantage point, my way is respectful, and at times your way, I'm saying your way is because that's where you're from,
what
is disrespectful. Mm-hmm. What do you think of that?
I think it's all about delivery. Okay. You know what I mean? Like, I think the way that I handled the soccer thing, I thought I handled it pretty well. But when I thought about it, I'm like, well, I could have did this a little bit better. You know what I mean? Like I was not yelling, but I was raising my voice. I wasn't screaming across the field. I could have did this a little better. But at the same time, it's like, well, no, I'm meeting the energy that like that actually happened. Like a violent thing happened. Yeah. I'm not screaming across the field. I'm gonna beat your ass. You know what I'm saying? I'm not doing nothing like that. But I'm like, yo, get him. He's gonna apologize. And like. And to me, like, if I was, let's use that for example. That's like that's the disrespectful way, quote unquote. Sure. If I was to be respectful, it's like, hey, like, can you go grab your son and tell him to come here? It's like, no, because the focus is the little girl wearing the jersey who was just choked and slammed. Yeah. She's having a traumatic experience, and coming up and say, hey, like, and this one thing I can stand about Minnesota coach, like, hey, like, how are you feeling right now? Like, I'm so sorry that your feelings are. It's like, bro, there's a time and place for that. But there's also a time and place for what I just did too. It's not about respect and disrespect.
Yeah, that's fair. You
know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, it's not about respect and disrespect. It's like, no, I'm meeting where we're at, the situation. Yeah. Now, somebody who's not, I guess, emotionally mature or like haven't really been through stuff like that, they don't really know how to navigate that. I've been through like the rough and gritty, disrespectful, grimy directness of the hood. Then I come out here and I see the passive aggressive, whatever, we can solve problems, everything is a big deal culture. Now I'm right here in the middle and I can navigate both of these things. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. But it takes maturity and it takes experience. But I think the only way you can get experience with being direct is to be direct, which is hard. Like, how many times have I even told you, like, bro, like, just tell me when we first met, like, but just tell me, like, you ain't got to beat around the bush. Like, I got a homeboy named Adam. I'm telling, like, bro, just tell me. Adam's he's the creator of Bibliotheca up here. Y'all should definitely check it out. But I tell him all the time, like, bro, like, freaking just tell me. Stop beating around the bush and stop telling me thank you. I don't need to hear that shit. Like, I'm helping you because you're my dog, bro. I don't need to hear thank you. I don't need to hear it a million times. We cool. And if you got something to tell me, just tell me. Mm-hmm. And he's thanked me for that. You know what I'm saying? Because, like, I'm just happy that you're like that. Like, and there's one time he was like, I want to thank you, but I'm not going to. You know, I'm like, thank you. Exactly. Don't do that. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, yeah, I think it's like, yeah, bro. I think you need some, at the end of the day, if you want to be more direct, I think you got to just do it. And again, you're going to mess up. And I tell people this all the time. There's 10 ways to say one thing. And you figure out how to say that one thing a few different times by repetition. I think it's that simple. But I think one isn't like right or wrong.
No, I think
it's about navigating them well.
Correct. Time and a place for both.
Yeah, time and place for both. Yeah. Like, there's time to let stuff slide. There's a time to be direct and like, no, this ain't happening.
Yeah. think that's the most I've hated on Minnesota in like a 25-minute span.
Yeah, we were kind of being hard on them, but hey, I love Minnesota, bro. I live here. The people are great. They're just super passive, and I learned to kind of just deal with them. So like, all right, bro, like I'm not listening to this, and I'm gonna do it anyway. You know, like with Charlotte, even like with Charlotte and her family, I'm just like, I won't even like give it the time of day. I'm just like, okay, like, I'm not about to even have a conversation. Like, no, yes. What do you think about this? I don't know, because what I think doesn't really matter. Like, you're not gonna really tell me what you want to do. Like, this is my last thing, then I'll be done. Is I would tell like Charlotte's family, I'm like, hey, you know, if I ask you something, you can say no. You don't have to say yes to everything. If I want you to, like, my mother-in-law's like, if I ask you to watch like one of the kids, cause I want to go do something, you can say no. Like, you don't have to say yes. You can directly say no to me. It will not hurt me.
No, we can't. See,
You
this is the thing.
can.
No, we can't.
Oh my god.
And I feel like
bro.
that's a different thing, dude. I don't know what that is, but that's like deep in the blood of Minnesota. It's like from the waters of the Mississippi.
And the thing, and the thing that's hard too is like, since if I don't want to do something, and I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. It's like, really? I'm like, yeah. Like, no, I'm not doing it. You know what I'm saying? And it's like a problem. And then it's like, oh, well, like, I do all these things for you. Hey.
Oh, yeah, you can't do that.
Hey.
Yeah. You can't pull that one. Yeah.
It's your fault that you're saying yes. I can take a no. If you want to say yes, that's on you. I'm going to say no when I want to say no. And then like we get into this thing of like, oh, well, like, we have to look out for each other. Like, hey, dog, that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah, saying no I have no ability to say no. But I think that that's different than calling back the favor once it's already happened.
Yeah, and I think that's just people in general. People just do that, and I can't stand that, bro.
Yeah.
If I do something, I'm doing it because I want to. Because the thing is, if I don't want to do it, I'm not going to.
See, I will, though. That's the problem.
And I tell Cheryl all the time, I say, look, when I say yes to something, you don't have to ask me again. Because that means that I actually probably even don't want to do it, but I can and I will. But if you ask me, are you sure? I'm going to say no.
Yeah.
I'm going to say no, because now I'm just getting annoyed because I already said yeah. So either way, I love Minnesota. I love Minnesotans. And I think that you got to just learn how to navigate being direct and indirect. There's a time for everything. There's a time and a place for everything. And we have to navigate that well. So that's all I have today. And I will see you guys on the next one.